Let me take a break from asking questions, see if there are any questions from anyone out in the audience. I don't know.
I have more of a statement.
Sure.
And a question. I think it's great that you want to celebrate the successes of government. Without it, we have.
That's right.
I think it's also good that you want to work with the legislature and the governor in those highly charged political environments. And I see in your brochure that you're an independent. You're a Democrat, but an independent perspective.
That's right.
We've had one guy run and win as an independent. I'm wondering if, on the state level, that's going to work with your ideas of melting all the various agencies, working with all the various department heads as the auditor. How much is that position politicized as the auditor? How much can you get done as an independent Democrat in this state?
Well, I am a Democrat.
I understand that.
And the independent perspective is a very important thing. And I think it's one of actually Joe DiNucci's greatest legacies is he has maintained his independence. He has stayed clear of political battles on Beacon Hill. And I think that's exactly what we need and want in our state auditor.
To get the changes you need,
yep.
Are you going to be able to win those political battles with a more of an independent perspective rather than a democratic perspective?
Well, the independent perspective I talk about is being an individual who has not been shaped by the very system that needs changing. Coming at it with government experience, but not state government. And not having held elected office, not being beholden to the state legislature or any particular state agency, to the governor or anybody else. I think that's the kind of independence that we need, and that's certainly what I represent. I mean, I'm a lifelong Democrat. As we said earlier, I served President Clinton, served President Obama. So I think in terms of a question of values, I share the same values. And I will use the office of the auditor to advance those values. That's what's really exciting about this office, is that it can do so much by streamlining government, by eliminating inefficiencies. It provides us with the resources we need to get to yes on so many of the things that Democrats fight for, whether it's better education for our children, even better quality, higher quality health care, better streets and bridges and water mains, whatever the case may be. It's sharing those values, but yet having the independence to and freedom of thought to question the way things are, so that it's not the simple same old, well, it's always been done that way, because that's what gets us into trouble. I'll give you a quick example. Actually, I was talking to a former state insurance commissioner, and she was approached by the governor, and the governor explained to her that she had a backlog of insurance forms that needed to be reviewed, and he explained that it needed to she needed to get through that, and we're facing difficult times, so there was going to be no opportunity for additional resources. So what did she do? She went to look at the business practices of her agency, and she was able to multiply the capacity of her staff and got through the entire backlog without having to hire any additional staff, because that wasn't an option for her. She was able to do it by buying new rubber stamps. New rubber stamps, because the old rubber stamps marked those forms approved. And there was a psychological impact on her staff that when they were passing the form down the assembly line, instead of reviewing the one section that they were expert in and passing it along to the next person to review their section, they felt responsible for the whole document. So they read the whole document. And then they passed it along, and the next person read the whole document, and they passed it along, so on and so forth. It's like a car assembly line where every person along the assembly line built the whole car. So what she did is she bought new rubber stamps that marked it reviewed. And those forms flowed through the process the way they were, with the experts focused on their section of the document. So it's simple things. And do you know, nobody could tell her why the stamp said approved in the first place. Again, it's the way it always was. So there are simple solutions that we don't even think about. we don't pay attention to, but yet it caused a backlog in insurance form reviews. So, to answer your question, I think it's the independence and, as I said, the freedom of thought to question these systems. Is there a way that this could be done better? Do we have to use that stamp? That's just one example.
As auditor, what can you do to improve the status in central Massachusetts, the unemployment, creating jobs? I really don't know where you're from, Mike. You from Boston area?
I'm from Melrose originally. I live near Northeastern, which is where I work now.
Okay. Are you familiar at all with the issues, especially in Sterling and some of the smaller towns?
Unemployment?
The unemployment. And really the technology needed by some of the local farmers, both apple farmers and orchards and dairy farmers and things like that are really hurting in this part of the state. Not that they're probably not any different
elsewhere.
Western Mass either.
Yeah, it's true. I'll tell you, the building trades have experiencing up to 40% unemployment. So it is all over the state of Massachusetts. The auditor's office is limited to some extent in what it can do for job creation, but not completely. For instance, one thing that I certainly would do is look into out-of-state contractors or out-of-state employees coming in to fill contracts that are paid for by state with state dollars, your tax dollars.
So you would prefer
in-state
Massachusetts state
residents
contractors get those contracts?
That's right, and use Massachusetts residents to employ them. Yeah. So that's one thing. I also think, for instance, with the energy audits that I already talked about, that creates jobs. It creates great jobs that improve the quality of our state-owned buildings. And by the way, that's also a process that I see as being a turnkey solution. So it doesn't just apply to the state and state-owned buildings, but can be used by municipalities as well. We just streamline the process, so it's an easier process for municipalities. And I have to give credit where credit is due. There were municipalities that are already far ahead of the ball on this one.
I'm sorry, just a quick question. Does the auditor's office have the I don't know if power is the right word, but do they have the authority to look at how a municipal school system or a regional school system uses its money for these energy audits or other things?
Well, the scope of the auditor's office is primarily limited to the state, but it does follow state dollars. So where state dollars go, the auditor's office can go and track that. Municipalities can also request an audit be performed by the state auditor, and that it could expand the scope beyond state dollars. So there is opportunity there. Did you have something specific in mind?
No, I'm just thinking because I think here in the Wachusett Regional School District, and I don't want to get ahead of what I do and don't know, but I know that they've talked about putting up a wind turbine, that they're working on some energy things here, but just more generally, if someone in, all the towns are in the budget time right now, and do we have enough money to pay for this and for that, and schools want more money, and just the kind of a thing that where money is tight for everybody, what is the role of the state auditor in how towns and regional school systems put together their budgets? And I think that was the question. I think you've answered that.
Yeah.